But first, it's PM in Beijing after spending a week, of course, in Washington, D.C. Australia's waning defensive capabilities are on the minds of many, especially as the situation in the Middle East worsens and the war in Ukraine appears no closer to being won. Joining me to discuss the challenges facing our own Defence Force here in Australia, a former Chief of Army, retired General Peter Leahy. General Leahy, thank you for your time. Decades of service, you are the man who'll help us unravel exactly where we are in capability terms. Let's just get a comment from you, though, on Beijing before we move to the domestic stuff. I mean, we can see what's happening in China. They are absolutely a strategic competitor. I see that the Prime Minister, of course, is there about the economic relationship, but I just get the sense we are at risk of falling back into the trap where we take their trade dollar and we're not thinking carefully enough about the security relationship given their aggression in our region.
This is a question we've been asking ourselves for the best part of 10 or 15 years, Peter. That is, what do we choose, our economic prosperity or our security, China or the United States? I think we've made that choice now and there's no turning back, and the choice is AUKUS and the Quad, and we're seeing other regional partners starting to go towards the security side. But at the same time, I think it's very sensible that we go after some economic prosperity. But I think we've learned the lesson. We have already learnt that we need to diversify and not rely on China. So I think that's the right thing to do. And I guess I applaud the Prime Minister for the opportunism of going to China and trying to make sure that we can expand our markets there. But at the same time, we mustn't do what we've done previously, and that is to rely on them. But this point about, I think we've made the security choice, we've made the right choice. And I see it in terms of both the United States and Australia and other regional partners. There's no turning back here. We've made the decisions and we're going to look primarily at our security.
But what about the Port of Darwin? If the Port of Darwin and not undoing that deal involving the Chinese for 100 years, if that's the price of the Prime Minister going to Beijing and having this trade relationship, should we have paid that price?
I'm not sure they're related, Peter. I was around when we were making the decisions on the Port of Darwin, and I think it was Dennis Richardson, who might have been the Secretary of Defence at the time, said, hey, if I want it, I'll take it back from them. It's a bit like Chinese buying land and building cotton or making cotton. What are they going to do? They're going to take the land back? Are they going to take the port back? We can control these things. They're still paying tax and so on. We need to be sensible. And I take your point about Chinese buying property here in Australia. I think there should be reciprocal rights. If we can buy property in China, they can buy it here. But I don't think that's the case at the moment.
It's definitely not the case. All right, let's go to some defence issues. Let's just talk about your criticisms today. I think well-founded criticisms about both our acquisitions of military kit, but also recruitment, retention of military personnel. What's going on? What's the problem you see?
My concern is that at a time when we've been told that we're facing the most dire geo-strategic circumstances in a long time, and I would think that that might occasion the fact that we bolster our defences now. We've had admirals from the United States and other places tell us, well, Chinese are ready for perhaps adventures against Taiwan by 2027. I'm just not seeing we're doing that. We've got a submarine in the Never Never, and people who know poetry might know the Never Never is where the dead men lie. It's a long way away. We've also got a delay in the decision on the nature of the Royal Australian Navy's surface fleet. We've also seen money coming out of defence, and I know there's probably a different way of looking at arithmetic. Certainly what I learned at school is a bit different from what I'm hearing officials and politicians talk about. Money's coming out of defence now. It's coming out of money that has been already allocated, it's being put aside, and it's not doing anything right now. So I'm concerned about preparedness and readiness. I'm concerned about maintenance and sustainment, and I'm concerned about stock levels, because if something does happen, well, how ready are we? And we've only got to look around the world in the last 20 years, and I was chief when we went off to both Afghanistan and Iraq, and well, they were a strategic surprise to us. And who's going to say that we won't be surprised again in the future? Because we don't have a good record at this. Ukraine, I think, is a surprise, and it's giving us a good look at what's going on, and also around the world, a range of other things. I think we need to be more balanced, and I know that we're hearing from departmental and political officials that we're focusing the Army. I think this is a mistake. Certainly we need a Navy and an Air Force, and given the nature of our environment here, but they're not going to win the war. They're not going to win on the ground. You need armies on the ground protecting, supporting, persuading and reassuring populations. Just have a look at Gaza. Look what's going on. You need people there working among the population. And my concern is that the Army won't be prepared to do that in the future.
What did you make of that report out today from Aid Data that says, in very worrying terms, Beijing's loans and grants in the Pacific are quite significant? We've got a whole lot of our neighbours now seriously in debt to China. We also saw that announcement too from the Solomon Islands government saying they've contracted China to provide the security services at the upcoming Pacific Island Games. Now, surely that's a worry.
That is of some concern, particularly if that becomes a habit with the Solomon Islands. And we already know that they've got some security arrangements for policing, and I'll put in inverted commas around policing, but we need to, from our point of view, engage more with the Pacific and particularly with the Solomon Islands to make sure that these engagements with China don't become habits, and that means we've got to be out there. I applaud some of the recent activities. I'm concerned, though, that some of the money to pay for DFAT working in the Pacific Islands has actually come out of defence. But I think we do need to be concerned about the level of debt. But again, the point that I make, and Hambantota down in the Sri Lanka is another example. It's a port. I've been there. It's a relatively small port. Yes, it occasions a debt to China, but what are they going to do? They're going to come and take it away? So I think we just need to be careful about that we consider some of these things. But I think the big lesson is engage more into the Pacific and show them just how much we are partners with them.
All right, Peter Leahy, thank you for your time.